Okay, before we start, let's do some warm up. How many of you are developers? Oh, there are not as many as I thought. How many of you are just random people trying to learn about account abstraction? Okay, there's way too many than I expected. Who don't even know what is account abstraction? Okay, wait. I don't know if I should feel happy or sad about that, but hopefully you guys can learn something new about during this panel discussion. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Wei Han, the cat there. So the cat there. Sorry, I'm the moderator for today. So today's topic is going to be about account abstraction, obviously, and mainly the discussion will be about why is it so important? Even though Emerson just now has already gave a very wonderful speech on a bunch of industry insights on the current AA state. So, nonetheless, we're still going to discuss more about account abstraction in depth with three of these speakers here. So I'll just introduce the speaker one by one. So on the left already, we have Emerson from Longhas Ventures. Clap, clap. Woo. Then in the middle, we have Brandon from Hedera. Woo. Then lastly, we have Francesco from Consensus/MetaMask. Woo. Okay, so let's give them some time to introduce themselves even better. And while you introduce yourself, I also want you to tell us more about why do you think account abstraction is so important. So just give a little bit of background about yourself and yeah, why account abstraction is important. So let's start with you, Emerson.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Emerson. Okay. All right. That was cool. Okay. So I help manage the portfolio at Longhas Ventures, supporting projects like Lit Protocol, Safe, and Particle Network on growing their user base and developing partnerships within our portfolio. So yeah, and why I think AA is important is essentially because it's unrealistic to expect that everybody will be onboarded with the seed phrase, and we need to create a new, safer paradigm for new users to enter crypto in a safe, sustainable way. Yeah.
Cool. Hi, I'm Brendan from Singapore, and doing developer relations at Hedera. Why account abstraction is important. I think there are a few things or use cases that it enables, which, similar to your point, let I guess people who are not like crypto degen advanced users, like the average person, can actually start accessing Web3 technologies. And like AA is one of the ways that, or one of the technologies that enable that to happen.
Hey, what's up, guys? Francesco, and part of the DevRel team at MetaMask, and I'm quite involved in AA since the start, even before 437. So it's not something new. I think we standardized the logic with 437, but before even with Safe, we had that. I don't know how many of you guys are in 437 Mafia, but we started that group end in the days, and today is quite well known for like a lot of like research and good discussion points. So if you want to be involved, also be part of that group. And we also received an EF grant for our AA meetup. We did the one also in Singapore, where we had also Vitalik speaking about the history of AA. Some of you guys were also there. It's great to see. And why I'm not bullish just about AA. I think it's just we will have different, as you mentioned, like different target personas. And I'm a big believer that light wallets will play a big role. And it's kind of a natural evolving of needs of users, right? People don't want to just do specific recovery. They want to have limited. They want to have frozen accounts. They want to have different set of features that I think with we can enable that. And I think we need to nail down a little bit how it's more around the infrastructure with running bundlers and a bunch of specific discussion. But that's definitely a good topic to talk about and advocate about for all the users.
Cool. So I think in the general sense is that we all know that account abstraction is important. That's like the conclusion that we have about account crashing. But looking at the previous, let's say, token standards or different ERCs that we have on Ethereum itself, what's so special about this ERC 437? Like, what are the new possibilities that account abstraction enable, or more specifically, ERC 437 enable that we couldn't get previously?
Yeah, I think it's partially is actually with developer mindshare, understanding what is what's required in order to build an account abstraction wallet. That unlocks the modularity I was talking about in the previous talk. Essentially, for developers to create their own specialized wallets and loop back into a specific standard that everybody abides by. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a slightly contradictory, opinion on this. Yeah, because I don't work with Ethereum, right? I work on Hedera, and it is EVM compatible. So you have JSON RPC, you have the same type of smart contracts, opcode level equivalents, etc. But the accounts and transactions model is quite different. So, so I take like a more, I would say, different, or I guess more lower level view of account abstraction than, say, just focusing on 4337 specifically, or like even on smart wallets. So for me, what account abstraction is like you've got a few different ingredients that you need to enable it. And so the ingredients are things like, can you remove the separation between a private key and an account or its address, right? Can an account, after it's been created, can it then change its private key? Can that private key be multi-sig? Can one of the components of that private key in a multi-sig scenario, can that be a smart contract, right? And like when you meet all of these requirements, oh yeah, one more as well, which is, can an account and the signer account and the payer account on a transaction, can they be separate accounts for that same transaction, right? So when you have all of these ingredients, you put them together, then you get like a lower level of what I think is being discussed as account abstraction. So you get other use cases in addition to what 4337 talks about. A lot of them overlap, and I think the most useful ones are smart wallets. But yeah, there could be more. So there's like a more lower level view of it.
Yeah, I think I mean, with smart accounts were there before, right? But I think with the EIP, he brought standardization around what we're talking about. He brought like special words that we can discuss with, and special like architectural designs that we can debate of. And I think that's what is exciting, right? So I think with this is like the first kind of like process to have different design conversation, and also like he brought up like standardization around different like infrastructure tooling, and that's where like kind of things came out, like hey, we have Pimlico SDK, Economy SDK. I think it's super exciting what happened, right? But it's also a process that started before. But I think with EIP we standardize like the language that we're talking about. It's basically what's happening a little bit with also like NFT standardization from Ethereum Magician a couple of years ago, that everybody was building their own marketplace without metadata standard, and then they came up some standards, and now marketplace can talk with each other, they can exchange specific information. So I think there's one first step, but we still have a lot of like different challenges.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at the history of account abstraction, it didn't start with, I mean, now everyone knows about account abstraction because of ERC 47 and maybe a bunch of other chains as well. But it actually started way earlier in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. But it's only now that it's getting traction. So yeah, it's definitely going to get very excited. We're going to get more application being built on top of account abstraction in the next few years. But yeah, I want to know for each of you personally, we have talked about so many use cases, right? Batch transactions, session keys and stuff like that. But for each of you personally, what's your number one use case? Like what's the application that you're most excited about? Yeah, among all the others.
It depends, I think, on the use case, like on the target audience. I think like for gamers out there, having having sponsored transactions it could be a very like interesting use case. I think for like, you know, end users that are more like targeted like to like light wallets, like limited accounts, I think like social recovery, like an easier process. I think that's definitely needed, and the full onboarding without the secret recovery phrase. And yeah, and I think it's like whatever we're doing, like we just need to always like be kind of mindful of this kind of like 5 principle of those principles, how we want to build things. And it's always like about the end users, having the end users in control of whatever they're doing. And I think this is the most important things. So I'm still like, you know, interested in social recovery, but you know, it's a use case that we need to do it also right.
Yeah, so I have a very specific concept like answer to this, because we actually were not in Hedera, but my previous role in Rootstock. One thing that we discovered through a lot of user research is that it is very difficult for an average person to deal with a wallet that has multiple currencies. You know, like basically the average user, and this is specific to the company was based in Argentina, so it's specific to Latin America, several countries that we research. So the users didn't want to care about, you know, multiple currencies. But if you want to transfer tokens around, like say USDC, and you have to pay for gas, right? That's a big stumbling block, right? Being able to use your account without and transact on a crypto network without even realizing that you're on a crypto network, that's another, you know, need to have to basically get this massive adoption kind of use case. So the idea is like create a wallet that enables that kind of thing, right? So one account, the wallet operator can pay for the transaction fees and gas in the native currency, and then maybe deduct that in, you know, in transaction fees in the same currency of the user, or perhaps subsidize it, you know. So that kind of thing is like what I'd say. I guess it's possible to achieve without account abstraction, but with account abstraction, it becomes like, I guess, to your point, like a much more standardized way of doing these things.
Yeah, I have a really idealistic response that may be futuristic from like 5 to 10 years later. But one use case I'm very excited about is around revenue distribution with a lot of different entities or users. In a case where, say, you're releasing a film, and the revenue you receive from a film is just movie tickets, right? And what if you can automatically distribute these revenue from movie tickets across all the different entities that were involved in that movie? Like in traditional world, this takes like 12, 18, 24 months to distribute. But if everybody is onboarded easily with a smart account on chain, and this is automatically distributed to all the contributors using a very simple to use wallet that is automatically deployed for you, that makes a massive difference to the people involved in that film, immediately getting more immediate rewards for their contribution.
I just want to say, I really want to add also on your point on sponsored transactions that this is obviously like a technical improvement, but in the same time, also we are enabling new kind of business model. I don't think it's even in the future, like we will have a, you know, like who will pay for those transactions. I think, you know, DApp owner will be the one sponsoring the transaction for the users, and then also like new revenue stream will kind of like come out. But I think, you know, I heard for the first time, I think was during ETHKL, that Safe was doing like sponsored transaction testing with Noses or something like that. That was really cool, right? Because then DApp owner can actually sponsor this transaction and having, you know, users fully, just one step, I think, further. And but I want to say also, like, it's all about also like changing this business model mindset. I think the same will be also like who will run bundlers, how is the revenue model on that. I mean, right now with Consensus we have Infura, so we are powering RPCs, but in the same time I think same will happen on the bundler level. And I think that's also a new business model coming out, and that's also exciting because we're thinking about technology, but at the same time we also change like different like business model narrative.
Yeah, cool. So definitely account attraction enables a lot of new application, a lot of new business model. And ultimately it's when we talk about account attraction, we also talk about smart accounts, which they are basically smart contracts, right? So it definitely improves their user experience on chain. That's the at least one of the goals. But at the same time, because we are trying to convert on Ethereum from EOA to smart contracts, and we know that smart contracts are very vulnerable to attacks. So how can we make smart contracts safe, like very safe, and at the same time convince the end users or the next wave of Web3 users to use smart accounts instead of the traditional account model EOAs? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there are two ways this is being really addressed today. One of what Safe is doing is one, having a registry, and second, having a security council to audit the modules. So whatever module that this could potentially be integrated in a smart account, they will go through a security council of very highly qualified professional auditors of smart contract wallets, go through that, and then have an on-chain verification that this module has been audited. And this will go to the say registry, and the registry will show that, okay, this module is safe, this account is safe, this wallet is safe, and essentially build a on-chain record of modules that can be safe to use.
Yeah, I was gonna say that whenever there's like a new technology, a new set of features, then the surface area for attack vectors is higher, right? And there's always a chance and almost a certainty that someone is going to use that and foot gun. So it's going to happen, right? But what I would say is, like, compared to when smart contracts, just general EVM smart contracts came into play the first time, like when there's like a feedback loop, right? And the question is, how short is the duration between when an attack vector is discovered and or exploited, and when it's fixed and best practices arise out of that. And I think, like, when smart contracts first started, there wasn't a established, security kind of mindset. There weren't big players or established companies with track records in security auditing in the Web3 space, et cetera, right? But now there is. And so that gives me hope that, this time around, you won't see such big hacks, or if there are big hacks, or security vulnerabilities discovered, they will be addressed much more efficiently than we have seen in the past in this industry.
Yeah, so I want to say that, for example, I think there will be a big trade-off in general, right? Like, I was checking like specific reports that were telling like transaction in theory are more expensive on smart accounts, and basically what this means also, like, I think there will be a trade-off on specific like use case being done directly through smart accounts versus like versus other like methodologies. It's the same like discussion that we have with like, okay, all our data need to be on chain versus not, right? And I think as we are deeply diving in, we also like need to see the overall picture, right? And specific like use case will be enabled, but in the same time we have multiple ways to achieve those, and having different like target personas, target users being satisfied with.
Okay, so now that we understand, I mean, security is definitely one of the challenge that account abstraction is going to face. But what are the other practical challenges that account abstraction we still have to solve, and how might we even solve it in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, I think challenges wise, I mean, like, obviously I'm excited about snaps. We were talking, how we're building modular snaps that are depending to each other. I think, like, we will always see single use case, single snaps use case around the A that would enable specific things. But I'm excited, about like this kind of like modularity that people can build on top of things. So that's probably like one of the biggest challenge. The other challenge, I don't see enough like developer tooling around the like support. Like this is something in 427 Mafia we're discussing a lot. I think they are like very specific. Multiple like developer tooling are literally forking other project and building top features. So I don't know if we're actually improving there, but you know, it's a progression, right? And so it's just very exciting to see like how we are like compared smart accounts of Safe before even the EAP was submitted.
Yeah. So I'll say like the big thing is that can or will account abstraction enable greater user adoption? Like, so one of the things that I think is a standout, what you mentioned, like right at the beginning, all the list of things that Argent Wallet does right, which is, for example, you've got social recovery or maybe another decentralized recovery mechanism. Not having to manage a seed phrase or private keys and just being able to use it maybe with the same level of technical effort as a username and a password, right? Which is what people are already used to. So these sorts of things I think are enabled by account abstraction, and yeah, like it's interesting to see how this will actually play out in terms of like, will this drive user adoption? Will we get more so-called Web 2 users to actually onboard into Web 3 as a result of this? Yeah, and then I guess like the second thing I wanted to say was like just during your talk earlier on, I saw the bit about Rhinestone and I was like saying, hey, MetaMask Snap should do that, you know? So it's like, it's kind of like, it's kind of interesting, right? Like you come to this conference and then, you know, you just suddenly get a new idea and the space is so nascent that it's not like, oh, that has already been done, right? Because if you do something like that in Web 2, it's like there's almost certainly someone else who's already done it. But in Web 3, it's like more like an open field.
Yeah, definitely resonate with that a lot. Well, although another challenge that I foresee as well is vendor lock-in when it comes to modules as well, because in contrast to EOAs, where every EOA is all the same, right? The challenge with modules is that when you build a module, you're building with specific like provider, can be Safe, can be zero dev, can be Biconomy, and this creates potentially a situation where modules cannot interoperate between providers. So there are specific standards like EIP 6996900 coming out that ensures like modular account abstraction to be interoperable. But I've heard some issues with that standard as well. So yeah, I think in order to ensure that these modules are freely interoperable between providers, we need that standard.
All right, thanks for sharing, speakers. So we actually have 5 minutes left. Time goes by really fast. So I'd like to open this 5 minute space to everyone that has any questions to the speakers here. Just raise up your hand. Anyone? If not, I'm going to ask more. Oh, there it is.
Hi, I'm Liang. I have a question for Francesco. Since AA is here, is there any plan for MetaMask to do something or to improve your UX and integrate 437?
Ouch. Yeah, for sure. So what I mentioned before in the talk was that with Snaps now is the first iteration, and the idea also is that Snaps are we allowing you for like an extension on the UI side. So basically, like you're building your own even a Snaps in the future, and what you can do is adding buttons and changing design directly on production MetaMask. I think that's a cool value proposition. And yeah, and for, I don't know if you're talking about mobile or extension, there was a couple of release of UI refresh. I don't know if you check it out, but network selection on mobile now is smoother. I know like there is always like big pains around that, but yeah, we're working on that. But I think like the also like the TLDR of like the UI part is that Snaps will enable also like a UI extension. So for any like future Snaps developer here, I think this is also something super exciting because you can actually like extend the functionality with directly like some AI components in directly in the extension.
Thank you.
All right, nice. Any more questions? Oh, there.
Yeah, hi. I guess this is a question directed at Francesco as well for Snaps. So can you share a little bit about why Snaps as a concept was like conceived, like what made the developers of MetaMask or Consensus decide to build something that is focused on developers?
Yeah, this is a good question. So, so before, like, so I started my talk, I think, I don't know, like last year with Snaps, basically like mentioning something like, I don't know if you check out like our MetaMask like repo, like back in the days we had something like, 1,400 like open PRs, like literally like features, feedbacks was crazy, right? And literally like one every like 2 days, people are coming like, hey, can we have natively integrated our tech? It's always the same, right? And we ask ourselves, with this way, with this level of ask, we'll never be able to satisfy like feature development. And I think like we actually came back on a more on a higher picture. We said, okay, how is actually looking in a Web3 process, how we are actually reaching out to this permissionless innovation setup. And the only way to do that is satisfying third-party builders in the community. And that's basically like where we came out with this kind of Snaps concept, like to extend fully functionality and in the future UI components on top of like the wallet. And that's basically how we started. So 18 months ago, we released fully Snaps on Flask, meaning you can actually develop Snaps on Flask. And during permissionless, we release those 36 allow lists of Snaps that you can directly install on production.
So it was really because of all the pull requests on GitHub that kind of led.
Yeah, exactly. So mostly because so many people have different requests, and we don't think that in the future the company are able to satisfy also like the speed of innovation that all our community is asking for, and that's where actually we enable all this innovation. So that's how we started. And there are also different things, like we would love to to have more community owned kind of like functionalities. I think like I just want to reiterate, Snaps are built by third-party builders, companies like startup, individual contributors, and this is how really like we're enabling. And right now, I don't know, I did my first MetaMask transaction, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, and it was just a normal peer-to-peer transaction. And I remember like now, like how we're using MetaMask, like in general, like is an ecosystem thing. It's kind of like a cultural common. And now like we're going on more on a more lower layer where actually like we can expand and people can be like literally like modular on top of like the wallet itself. And I mentioned that before in the talk, like it will not surprise me if there will be much more standardization around adoption of Snaps on different wallets. I think that's super cool. The only things that we need to keep in mind is we want to do that preserving the rights of the users and not just shipping features that are, let's say, compromising that vision. I think there will be at the end of the day like a trade-off, and user will decide which type of features they want to use. Like we are not pushing a specific Snaps use case compared to other Snaps use case. We want the users to make this decision, right? Like as you saw, like for the directory, we have transaction inside Snaps, and you see like something like 15 different Snaps. And they're built by different companies doing different like security, having different security tech Snaps. And I think at the end of the day, like users will perceive and will see different innovation. Yes, this is for users, but on the developer side, like you're open to everything is open source. Also the Snaps being issued are all, you can see the repo, you can fork it, you can rebuild it. But the cool thing is that it's really like enabling every builder out there to extend in the functionality of what the wallet does today.
I can talk very briefly about being on the other side of that. So I or my team have submitted, I think, 2 different PRs to the main MetaMask. This was in maybe 1.5 years ago, and then waited for multiple months with no response, or some response saying maybe, but we'll look at it, kind of thing. So then after that, the final response that we got was, oh, hey, there's MetaMask snaps. Why don't you do this inside a snap instead? So like, oh, okay, finally, So that's been my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a good point. And you even built the DERA snap back in Singapore. It was amazing. Yeah. And like the interoperability category is also super interesting, because right now, like every 2 weeks, there are either new layer 2s or like layer 1s. And like the only way that you can actually integrate directly if it's fully non-EVM is like through snaps now. And before, we got bombarded really by native integration, adding new networks, and now like there is a way, right? So I think this is also our responsibility to provide like a full standardized infrastructure, fully audited for developer out there. Because if we're not standardizing things, we cannot build further. Same with like what we're discussing with EIP. EIP gave us like a way to discuss things and build on top of that. So that's where it really is exciting. Yeah.
All right, that's great. So that's the end of this panel discussion. Everyone, let's give them a round of applause.